I was tasked to redo or revamp this program. It was about 25 years old. We were trying to get it up to date with other programs in the state. And one of the primary objectives that I'm going to speak about today is the online portal system that we developed. I was fortunate enough to be able to work with a great IT team within our cabinet, and we came up with a system that has worked, knock on wood, really well to this point. When we started working on this program online, we had a few objectives in mind. First and foremost, we wanted to make sure that the field staff could easily use this program. The old program that we had was very cumbersome. It was not consistent, and there was a lot of information in there that we really didn't need in the system to be able to score these applications. So ease of use was the primary objective. We wanted to integrate GIS into the system. That helped that ease of use on the front end, and also helped on the back end for us to be able to quantify the data and be able to manipulate that data in much more effectively. And then the other thing we wanted in the system was to create a very reliable and very transparent scoring system. As I stated before, the scoring system in the old program was not very consistent. This slide is simply showing our old application. It's just showing the fact that it was 6 pages long, had a lot of information in there that was very arbitrary. A lot of it we didn't use. Some of it that we did use for scoring was not very attainable. We had stuff like nitrogen savings or soil loss savings, and that information at a district level was very hard to determine for a lot of our staff. So we would have answers across the board on that. Either they didn't know how to calculate that, or they figured out, hey, if I put a big number in this box, I'll get a higher score. So we moved to a scoring system that's more equitable, and I'm going to go into more detail on that in just a second. So this is our new application. This is the paper version of that. It's essentially a one-page application. That second page is just a signature page, just for the Conservation District Board Chairman and the applicant to sign that application. So you can see we have simplified it considerably. This is a practice worksheet, we call it. It goes along with the application. It looks very long. There's a lot of information on this spreadsheet, but the wonders of the Excel program, there's a lot on here, but basically the field staff, all they have to fill in is the units that they want for each practice. And this spreadsheet does the rest of the work for them. It calculates the payment. In the background, in the online application, it calculates the score. So even though it looks a little complicated, it's really simple to use. This is what that application looks like online when you open up the program. You simply transfer the information from the paper application to this online form, and it'll ask you for the practice. We have 4 different practice categories that we use, and under each practice category, that's that same list that you're seeing on the right there that was on that Excel spreadsheet. So they just transfer that number of units. Say if we're doing 100 feet of fence, they'll go to the fencing on this, put 100 in there, and it scores and calculates the payment automatically. So this has really helped our front-end users, the conservation districts that input this information, to be able to be more consistent and use this. It's a much more user-friendly program. So the screen that you're looking at right now, this is the back end. This is the administrator page. This is what I see when I open this. So it has different sign-ups over on the left, and I can select by all applications or which practice category that I want to look at. And when I open one of those, you will see that it should be the slide is, but it gives us a spreadsheet that basically has a lot of information in there that we didn't have before. With that GIS capability, it's allowing you to sort by different criteria. Name, practice, there we go. Name, practice, county, GPS coordinate, hydrologic unit code, scoring, farm and track number. We can sort this data easily and manipulate it any way we would like to. So it's much more friendly for us on that end to be able to use the data. Now back to the scoring system. One thing we want to do, we always got complaints about how these were assessed, how we scored these, and why people got approved the way they did. So we decided, instead of basing the scoring on information that was put in on the most part by the field staff, we know what each conservation practice brings to the table. We know what the environmental benefit is for each one of those. So we decided to start scoring based on the practice that was being installed. That's about 90% of the score in the system. We have done this the last 2 years, and it's worked out really well for what our purposes in this state cost share program. One thing that we did learn, and my partner that worked with me on this is from NRCS, in EQIP, for example, somebody could apply for a lower priority practice and maybe get a low number of points for that, but they could apply for a higher priority practice and just put in a very little bit and get those points. So what we did, we have a weighted scoring here, and what that does is if you apply for a low priority practice and that's 90% of the dollars you spend, you're going to get 90% of the points on that. So that's helped us a lot be equitable in what we're doing, and this is just a list of the priority practices that we have. So the field staff does get a copy of this. So that's basically what I have. Any questions, we'll get those in after the session is over, and I'm going to hand it over to Kimberly, and she's going to do her part.
Okay, my slides are not advancing.
All right, let's try that. Hang on, there you are. Back to you, Kimberly.
Down there.
Good morning. I'm going to be talking about some of our unique district cost share practices and services that we offer in the state of Kentucky. And just a few challenges that we face as a state is that we have a lot of conservation districts that are both big and small. They have a need for programs that touch more of the general population and a need for smaller programs that reach larger numbers. And so several of the conservation districts have come up with some pretty unique ways to address those issues. So we'll start off in Jefferson County. Louisville is the largest city in Kentucky. Many of the communities are in poverty level and they're underserved. There's also established food deserts within the city. And so the Conservation District recognized this, and they talked about obtaining some grants from both the Humana Foundation and NACD. And then they worked with NRCS through the EQIP program to kind of establish the match for these programs. So in the end, the applicant ended up paying about 7% of the cost share installation of the structure, so it worked out really well. They worked with churches, neighborhoods, community centers, nonprofit agencies, and so they were able to work with non-traditional clientele, which also helped a lot of their contacts. So in the end, about 25 high tunnel structures were built within the city limits, and about 9 gardeners donated all of their produce. So last year, it ended up being about 2,329 pounds of produce was harvested and then distributed in the community to those underserved neighborhoods. This also assisted with the mayor of Louisville's Healthy Food Initiative, which gave them a much better in with the local government there. It inspired a huge growth in urban education, which is what they really needed. So they were glad to see that. All right, moving to Hardin County. They have teachers there that are required to obtain about 24 hours of professional development a year outside of the classroom. And the Conservation District there works with many of those schools already through the year. They saw a great need for agriculture and conservation education. And some of the personnel in the office was certified already through several different programs like Food, Land, and People and Water Education for Teachers. So they decided to offer grants for about 20 teachers per year to get this extra professional development and also some agriculture education. And so they hosted a 2-day training. The first day was spent in the classroom focusing on mainly just the core content. And then the second day was a field day where they actually went to a working farm, and the farmer demonstrated how farms work, everything from livestock to food. And it's been outstanding. About 60 teachers in Hardin County have been certified through the workshop. They've developed a lot of new relationships in the community, and the teachers are just better educated about agriculture, and they feel more comfortable talking about conservation topics in the classroom. Moving on to B is for Bullitt County. The goal in that county was to establish pollinator habitat at least every 6 miles across the county. They partnered with several different agencies where the landowners would volunteer to place hives on their property and also agree to plant pollinator habitat. District partners constructed the hives and maintained them, also taught the landowners how to keep those maintained. The State Highway Department is also planting pollinator habitat on the state right-of-ways and placing beehives in those locations. And then they were able to get the youth involved by letting the FFA package the pollinator seed. So this is in the first year. It's been widely successful. It's been only because they have a lot of good volunteers. So the results are they've worked with a lot of the general public. They worked with the high schools that painted the hive boxes. They had a hive painting contest at the local library where they also did storytelling and beekeeping demonstrations. So it's great to get the community involved. And so far they've done 17 school presentations, and all the honey harvested this year was purchased either by the landowner or was sold to the Bee for Bullitt County organization, where all proceeds went back into the project. So far in the first year, over 110 hives have been installed. So that's been a great thing. In Warren County, they have a cost share program for local landowners and residents. They have pollinator habitats where the seed is provided for bees or a butterfly garden. The cover crop program, which is a 50-50 cost share program up to $3,000 for the cost of seed. And then where they help do the heavy use areas for erosion control, that's also a 50-50 program up to $1,000 for those feeding pads. And then in Oldham County, they have a pollinator and a monarch program. The district staff there is great to volunteer, and they collect a lot of monarch eggs on local farms each summer. They then do several pollinator presentations at local schools where they take those into the classroom and teach about the process. They host a yearly monarch egg hunt in the community on a local farm, and they also assist community entities and any landowners that want to plant milkweed beds. So the results, there was unbelievable public interest. There was hundreds that attended the egg hunt and local workshops. The district staff ended up collecting a little bit over 200 eggs and caterpillars to take to the classroom. And then they take those and present to the 14 local schools and have reached approximately about 1,000 third and fourth graders across the county. They also work with the local, with the National MonarchWatch.org, and that's where they obtain their tags and log the numbers of monarchs that they actually hatch and release. So that's a very good educational program both in that community, and it has spread to other conservation districts in the state. And if you have need any information or you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. So thank you.